It's the Logan Power Show. Inspirational and motivational. It's the Logan Power Show. Informational to help you grow. Logan Power Show. And now the host, Calvin Logan.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Logan Power Show, nationwide, worldwide, where we're here to make a difference. We're here to elevate not only you who are watching us, but to inspire those that will say to themselves, I can be here also as well. Well, I take it as a privilege and an honor for the first time at the Logan Power Show. We always want to encourage people who are making a difference. Well, I got with me, she is the director, the commissioner, the founder of the WPBA. Once again, the Women's Professional Basketball Association. She's the CEO and founder, Mrs. Tamika Milburn. How you doing, Mel?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we definitely want to also shout out to you as well, being a veteran, serving the United States Air Force. So shout out to all my Air Force people out there. And we want to also shout out my brothers who I've served with in the United States Marine Corps. Shout out to you, Semper Fi, November 10th, 1775, Marine Corps birthday. But I was fortunate to do both branches of service. Shout out to the Army, shout out to the Navy, and to the Coast Guard. But let's talk about what you're doing. You about to making some waves, making some competition with the WNBA. So we get the WPBA. So let us know how this got started. What makes you want to decide to get involved?
For me, it wasn't really the sport. I've never played basketball or any other sport for that matter. Sure. It was more so at one point I was working with young girls who had aspirations to play at the collegiate and at the pro level. And at that same time, I was meeting former pro players. So we came together, we created an organization that helped train and develop young girls and get them ready for college. And what I found out is that there was a disconnect between high school and college and the pros, and then from pro players going into, what I call the real world. And for me to work with young girls who had those aspirations, I wanted to kind of find people to put around them that was going to help guide them through their path so that they weren't lost like a lot of the players. And I'm sure you probably understand this, but even coming out of the military, going into the real world, it's really difficult. It's a very difficult transition, especially if you don't have the right people guiding you. And it's the same thing for these athletes. So for our younger girls, I wanted to be able to put athletes around them who had that experience. So as they went through their journey, their transition would be a lot easier. So I actually started a team in Atlanta called the Atlanta Monarchs to bring these women around our girls. And the same thing in Philadelphia. I started the Philadelphia Reign. And for me, the league came about with just because I wanted to be a part of an organization that was doing more in the community. We were playing in a league it was a semi-pro league. But they weren't really doing a lot in the community. They weren't working year round to make sure we were, pouring into young ladies and things like that. So I started the league for the purpose of doing that, to make sure we had teams and team owners in multiple cities that were pouring into the girls and creating programs that were going to help young athletes along their journey.
Absolutely. When you think about women's basketball, it is making strides. Shout out to my Sparks, my LA Sparks. I'm a big LA Sparks fan. But definitely want to shout out to Chicago Sky, bringing home the WNBA championship. Shout out to Candace Parker and the crew that's doing some great things. My Sparks didn't have a great season this year, but hey, we're going to do better than we did. But definitely want to shout out to a former LA Spark, Miss Candace Parker, for bringing it through. We know women's basketball has transitioned, started in the mid-90s. The WNBA started. We know that women's basketball has been a pillar. I always call it fundamental basketball. If you ever watch a women's basketball game, it's all about fundamentals. If you want fundamental basketball, definitely go to a women's basketball game. You will see the passing, the shooting. It's all one team. There's, you got your superstars, you got your people who are going to show it out, but it's always good to see the fundamentals and what comes about. Now, since you are doing a league which is sort of like a semi-pro and giving, ladies who are, caught in the middle, definitely high school to college is a mountain. And then from college to the pro levels, even another mountain. Even think about international basketball and some of the pitfalls that come about, but there are also some great stories. Um, how many teams do you have set up right now? I mean, what can people be looking at? What cities are you in right now?
Okay, just to be clear, we're not semi-pro. We are a pro basketball league.
I'm sorry.
We're players are compensated. We're pro. Our games are a pro atmosphere. We have VIP seating, suites, court seating. It is a pro environment. The difference is that we're taking a more grassroots approach. So we are operating year round to make sure that we're properly marketing our organization as well as our players to get that more professional feel that you get with other pro organizations. We have 8 teams currently in the league, and they range. I'm not going to name all the states right now because we're keeping that until January. But we have them pretty much from Pennsylvania to the Midwest, and we may have some West Coast teams coming in as well. But right now, for sure, we have 8 states or 8 teams in the league. And again, our players, we recruit directly from the Division I colleges most of the times. We recruit directly from the WNBA transactions list. So our teams do consist of WNBA players and WNBA caliber players. So like I said, it is a pro league. We have pro athletes, and we're taking a professional level approach to this. It's just, again, we're doing it a little bit differently.
Absolutely. Keep in mind, we know that on a professional level, on a pro level, we know the NFL had the XFL, and that's been huge. And, we pray that, what you are building is something that can be very monumental. Someone say, well, hey, you shoot for the aspirations. And I believe that, you all are making some strides. What are some, I guess, talents, or any tryouts, or where people can sort of like want to connect? Like, because I know for me, I coach myself. I know that this is the first time for me hearing about you guys. And, I always want to shoot my young ladies who I'm under my tutelage of where they can sort of shoot. And so where can they get in contact and say like, hey, let's get that opportunity?
So we will host a combine in April. Our season starts in May. We run May through August. You can always connect on Instagram. It's at _ WPBA, and Facebook and Twitter it's at the WPBA, and we have a website. It's the WPBA.com. And we are new, so we're actually just starting to not starting to, but we're working on our branding and our marketing. We just made Philadelphia our home city, so we've made good connections there and partnered with the 76ers. Reebok and some other organizations that are kind of helping us to get our foot, get our footing. We have some other partners that we'll be announcing shortly, some pretty major ones, but we are pretty new, so that's probably why people haven't really heard of us just yet. We actually started pre-COVID, and then COVID happened, so we kind of shut things down and restarted this past year. So, but we are, like I said, we're on social media, and on our website is the WPBA.com.
Absolutely. Is there a particular, for yourself, what do you want to be able to do? What's the main goal? Because, when you think about women's basketball, it is a $1 billion industry. When you think about college, high school, professional level, it is a $1 billion industry. There's a lot of different avenues, and women are making some strides, even on a global scale. When you think about professionally and what women do on the court. So since you are, you're saying that you guys are coming in, and I'm for it. I want to be able to come to a game myself and be able to be in the stands and say like, hey, I remember when this first jumped off. Where do you see it going? What's the vision?
It's okay. So let's be clear. The sport itself, the industry itself may be $1 million industry, but it's not for the players. Yeah. So, and a lot of that has to do with because number one, the marketing is not being done on the women's side. The branding is not being done on the women's side. There's a lot of connections that are not being made with the communities on the women's side. So my goal is to make those connections. My goal is to do, to develop the marketing, to develop the branding, to make sure that as an organization, we're doing what we need to do. Women's sports is different than men's sports. When you're talking about bringing little girls to the game, you have to make kind of a personal connection. When you're talking about selling season tickets and having families come, you want to make a personal connection. So what we're doing is we're making those connections connections. Again, that's why we operate year round. That's why the majority of our, our our off season consists of community activities and events. We have an event in Philadelphia this weekend, a family fitness concert that we're bringing families together, communities together, and they'll be working out with some of our pro players who, we have players who are local, and then we have a lot who are overseas right now. But the ones that are local, we're bringing some in from Atlanta, from Mississippi, and then we have our Philadelphia players here. So kids get to come out and work out with the players, and not basketball, and not just basketball players, but people from all walks of life. We're doing different types of aerobics class and workouts and things like that. So it's bonding with community. We're doing mental health workshops that we're talking to kids and we're talking to coaches on how to identify certain issues, so that we can proactively address them. So those are the kind of things that we're doing, so that we are making sure that, number one, we're visible year round, but also that we're touching on things that are important to young women as well, and that are kind of have been neglected on the women's side of the sport. So it's not just the basketball that we're pushing. It's not just, we have great talent. Our games, like I said, I had 2 teams in another league, and our games are awesome. They're entertaining. They're phenomenal. It's a great environment. It's even for people who aren't necessarily women's basketball fans in the beginning. It's a great environment. But what we're working on is bringing more attention and more respect. So there's a lot of attention that's been brought to women's basketball, but the respect is still not there where it needs to be. Again, it's a multi-million-dollar industry. It's not for the players though, and that's what we're working on.
Absolutely. I understand, that the players are not given the right compensation that you may have. You may have a couple players that may be headliners, but they're still not making the kind of money they should be making. And we want you all to have, we want women to be equally, to have the even playing field. It's not the same when you think about women's sports, but you think about the paraphernalia, things that are being done, and then they're not given the same, you would say, percentages. So I hear from your heart that it's more than just basketball, more than just an athlete. You want to be a pillar in the community, and you want to be able to give a holistic type of atmosphere that you want people to be able to acknowledge. What are some things that you're seeing, I guess, when you're having some of these workshops, that people are sort of expressing how it sort of impacted them or sort of changed their lives by coming out and supporting what's going on, or give an opportunity just to meet some of your professional players and get to know them on a personal level?
I think the one thing that people just don't understand, why there's a difference, and there's just a disparity between the men and the women's side, and the work that has to be done on the women's side. It's not as easy as it is on the men's side. So I think that's one thing that when I talk to people, they're like, okay, this makes sense. And, it makes sense why it hasn't happened, because the work isn't really being done. So what we're doing, it makes sense, because we're doing the work, like I said, year round, to make sure that, and I'm not saying, necessarily evening the playing field right away, but at least getting women what they deserve, just understanding what work has to be put behind it. Another thing is we work with kids, year round. I have kids now who are graduating in college that we worked with 6 years ago, that, one of them was picked up by the Minnesota Lynx, had another one who was slated to be drafted. They decided to finish to go back, take their extra year of eligibility that was given to them due to COVID. But, we have girls that are coming out of college now that we know our programs work as far as on the youth level. We know that feeding back into them, that mentoring them from these other pro athletes, it works. And it works on like you said, a holistic approach, and on a long-term scale. So, those are the kind of things that when we talk to people that kind of differentiates us between, other leagues and other organizations, especially on the women's side.
Great. I mean, and I'm looking forward to for me, the reason I'm excited about it is because I have a daughter myself. She plays basketball, she plays softball, and for me, I'm a girl dad and a boy dad. I'm both, but I coach all my kids, and I want them to understand the importance of team play, working together. I want to see just the same benefits that my sons get, the same my daughter would get as well. So for me, I that's why I'm excited about this, is because now I can let my daughter know there's another opportunity that could be there for you. If you work hard, put in the hard work, having an opportunity just to play is one thing. but being very successful is a whole nother ball game. When you said to yourself, when you first said you were getting started with this, did people say you were crazy, saying you're going to do something like this? Because the reason why I'm saying that is because let's be truthful. People say like, hey, y- you're dealing with mountains, and I'm all with the mountain now. Like I said, when they said the XFL and the NFL, those are mountains. CFL, those are mountains. You think about WNBA when it first came on. The Houston Comets were they rolling 6 in a row. Cynthia Cooper, we come about Tina Thompson. Hey, I know my basketball. Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lobo. Hey, I watch it. I'm a fanatic for the ladies and for the men. If you talk about college, hey, I'm all into it. I told my daughter, we talk about UConn, University of South Carolina. Shout out to Don Staley. Shout out to Gino Oriyama. Hey, I'm all about it. So I'm just asking you. I know about Pat Summit. For you saying, I'm going to get on this type of stage on a professional level, and I'm going to change the game on sort of putting myself out there. What were some of the conversations, or what's been keeping your faith from moving on to and keeping moving forward?
Yeah, people think I'm crazy. I think I'm crazy sometimes too. It doesn't make sense for someone who's never played sports. But again, I understand that transition coming from the military into the real world and seeing some of these athletes. I understand why their transition is so hard coming off the court into the real world. But I'm going to be very honest. The way that, especially, within the communities of color, the way that this industry literally takes advantage of people of color, it pisses me off. So that's what keeps me going. I'm gonna be very honest about that. Whether it comes to behind a couple $100 for sneakers when you don't have a couple $100, but the industry is pushing this and pushing this and pushing it. It's just we're not teaching our community to leverage what we have. This is a tool. This is a tool to get us on a different playing field. This is a tool to get us in those meetings, into those boardrooms. And as a whole, we're not being taught how to use this tool in the right way. So that's really where I'm coming from, especially when it comes to girls, young girls. Girls are slighted as young as middle school. So it's, when you go into a middle school locker room, a girl's locker room versus a boy's locker room, you look at the difference in the uniforms, and there's a clear difference. They're slighted from that young age, and it pisses me off. So it may sound crazy, but even if I just become a voice and say, okay, she's making sense, so we're going to back her, we're going to support her. That's what I'm looking for right now. And to be able to create a league to where women are staying in the sport, because right now there's a lot of women who are leaving because they're dissatisfied. And when they leave, they're not coming back to this sport, which means this sport is not sustainable. So it's like I hear so many people say, oh, I have a daughter who plays. That's great. But you have to have these women who say they love this sport continue to pour into those daughters so that this sport is sustainable. And that's the position that I'm coming from, is what can we do to keep this going? What can we do to make it evolve? I mean, it's, the WNBA has been around for 20 years, and yeah, there's been strides made, and there's a lot of work that's being put in, but as far as the evolution of the league, it's not really there after 20 years, so it's what else can we do?
You're speaking the truth. I mean, the WNBA mid 90s hasn't really made the kind of strides that you would like, being in 20 plus years. Their income is like pennies to a dollar compared to what the NBA is putting in. So there is a significant difference. The WNBA, like for me, I'm not a biased person. I love them both. Let's be honest. I watch, and it'd be nice to get the balance of the games. Now let's be truthful. It's kind of hard. You got if you are a fan, a true fan, you got to get on Bleacher Report, something to watch the website, because not all games are televised. You may not get all the watching from Sports Center, or if it's anything with ESPN, people don't always show those games. And let's be honest, it's like in college, women's college is the same thing. If you're not in the top 25, you ain't getting no love. I'm gonna be straightforward with you. You're not even getting that time. You're not kind of advertisement. You're not getting coming in. It's just it's a grueling sport. It's a grueling experience. But I want to encourage the ladies. Me, I'm a girl dad, and I want to see the ladies do well. So if you start in the league, Ms. Milburn, hey, listen to me. I'm all for it, because the WPBA, listen, it just takes a spark for for someone to say, you know, I'm backing what you're doing. The U.S. women's soccer team. Let me tell you something. Them ladies are phenomenal. You hear me? If you ever watch them play, they are the truth. They are some
Yeah.
serious,
Yeah.
hardcore, get it down type of
Yep.
women. University of Stanford. Shout out to the University of Stanford women for winning championship last year. Hey, I was pulling for UConn. Let's be honest, I ain't biased, but you know, hey, the cookies crumble. I was pulling for University of South Carolina. You know, I want to see a balance. You're right. African American women are definitely slighted. And let's be honest, the same thing in the NBA is nothing different. We know there's a disparity
Right.
with women of color, men of color. And then it comes to ownership, that's a whole nother ball game. But you being the African American owner, that's a whole nother thing that I'm proud of for
Hmm.
me, because you're making strides. And let's be truthful, in a game where it's predominantly played by minorities, minorities don't have any type of ownership. We're not
Right.
even talking about the executive behind the scene marketing, and let's not go into coaching now. It's kind of hard
No,
when we talk
that's facts.
when you talk about coaches and you say, okay, I want to be like this. And listen, I'm not a biased person. I'm just letting you know, Don Staley, shout out to her, doing a great thing she's doing. I'm Gio Oriama. I'm just letting you know, if my daughter has an opportunity, I'm gonna tell her, let's go with University of South Carolina. Hey, if you're not, go UConn. Let's find where we going. If you're not, let's make it happen. HBCU school, whatever. I'm not biased. I'm just letting me know it's an experience. If she got into your league, I'll be the first one, daddy with a jersey on, laughing, giggling, running down the court, because I,
Right.
I don't know about you, but I'm just as fired up as anybody else, because I'm coming
Right.
from an experience. I'm not a biased person. So I just I just know that this is not easy. But for some of the people that are backing you right now, that shows you that somebody's hearing what you're giving, and
Yeah.
you're not selling something that people are slamming your doors. Uh,
Right. And you'd be surprised too, some of the people who are backing us right now. Like I said, we'll be making a few announcements between now and January, but they're hearing us, especially because I call people out. You're the same person that said, oh, we need black on this, black on. Well, now it's black on. So where are you at? So, and people are thinking about that, so, and I've called several folks out on that, and they're standing by what we're doing. So I'm actually excited, like you said, when somebody gives us a push, like I said, we started right after COVID where we had no resources. Then we had some resources and they went away. And now we have even more resources than we started with.
sure.
So it's like we've been given a really great opportunity. And it's because people, they're, not to sound cliche, but they believe in the movement right now, because this is where we are. It's like we have to start owning. We have to start looking out for, what's best for not just, and I'm not just talking about people of color. I'm talking about just the sport as a whole, the women's side as a whole. Our youth programs don't just consist of basketball players. Our youth programs consist of girls who play sports and do all extracurricular activities, because that's what's going to help, advance them. And again, we want this sport to be sustainable. We want all women's sport to be sustainable, and I think people are starting to hear that.
Absolutely. Now, this is the biggest thing. There's a young lady who's watching, a young girl who's watching and saying, I can probably, they want to shake your hand. They want to have the opportunity to say, oh my gosh, mom, dad, I made it to the WPBA. But there's a but, because let's be truthful. Sometimes when you shoot for the sun, people say, well, the ceiling is all you can get because I can't see it happening. But you're doing something that, nobody has thought of in the past 10 years, to say, I'm going to create something that can just be just as powerful as what's already been replicated 20 plus years ago, but I can do it better. So why do people need to now, starting in 2022, turn the channel in May of 2022 and give you the opportunity to be the voice for the voiceless? The floor is yours.
And it's really what you said, and you said it right, because we can do it better. Like, And it is just that not only are we going to do it better, we're going to do it better, and we're going to do it from humble beginnings. You know, our vision is clear. Our vision is it's basically it's passion that drives us. You know, we're doing it not just so people can come to a game. We're doing it to make sure that people can keep coming to games 20 years from now, that women can keep playing this game. You know, it's I tell our kids in our youth program, if you put, you know, there are people out there, myself included, that if you put my paycheck, you know, when I work for the federal government next to the highest paid WNBA player, there's no comparison, you know, and that's unfortunate, you know, because they're out there on the line, you know, risking injury every day, and they're not getting what they need. So, you know, and I'm not saying that that's something that we're going to be able to do right away, but that's something that we're teaching not just our staff, but our players, why it's so important to be a part of your community, because that's really what it is. You know, the WNBA players are disconnected from the community. They're disconnected from their own community. So you have to give people a reason to come to the game. Our games are extremely interactive. You know, so it's like when we're playing, you know, after a game, our players are staying on the court to sign autographs, to shake hands, to take pictures. So you're you know, parents appreciate that they're taking that time. Our players are going into the schools doing career days, you know, so that kids get to know them and they're talking about what they want to do. But on that same token, we're pouring into our players. You know, we're at the point now where we're able to offer internships to our players. We're able to connect them with companies that are, you know, in industries that the players want to go into when the ball stops bouncing for them. So it's a bigger level. It's a lot more than basketball. And don't get me wrong, I love the game. I love watching our league. I love watching our teams play, you know, our players play. But my purpose is to take care of them when that ball stops bouncing, you know. So like I said, we have the talent, we have the phenomenal talent, but we're doing so much more than that. And we're being intentional about our marketing. We're being intentional about our branding. You know, we're going to be branding players so that the players are getting paid on top of that, and not just one or two players in the whole league. I'm talking about all the players in the league, you know. And fortunately, we have developed some really great partnerships with some companies that are helping us to do that.
And that's what I want people to listen to today. You look at a woman of God, a veteran that wants to make a difference. And for those that are watching right now, let's be truthful. Let's not talk about negative. Like, you ain't gonna be. Listen, she doing
Oh, I
more.
want them to say all of that,
No,
because
no,
that motivates.
it's motivated.
Okay.
But I'm like this. It's called my affirmation. I want
Right.
people to understand this. It's not how you start; it's how you finish. She doing better than most of y'all, because some of you ain't got an advertisement of a vendor of nothing. She doing something. So let's get that out the way. Number two, you know, and I know that the women are doing a great job. You may not want to give it, you may not want to say that, but let's be truthful. There are some great women out there. If I name some people off the top of my dome, Cheryl Swoops, if I name Cynthia Cooper, if I name Cheryl Miller was like the Michael Jordan of basketball for ladies. And
Yeah.
we want to understand
Yep.
this is that if you know the game, then you know the game. And the game is this: if Cheryl Miller had social media back then, if she had the backing, she would be a sensational
Yep.
NBA. She would have challenged guys on the court. Reggie Miller said plenty of times, "My sister was better than me."
Yep.
So let's be truthful now. Let's be honest.
Yep.
There are some ladies that can play the game and they can shoot the lights out. And I've always said this: don't take my word for it. If you think you're Billy Bad Boy, go to a WNBA or a WPBA basketball game and take your non-exercising self out there who had exercised in 20 years. That lady gonna embarrass you, and you gonna be
Yeah.
hurting. Because I tell you this,
Yeah.
I promise you, this is not nothing to play with. These are people's livelihoods, and they will embarrass you. So I want all you right now. Let's encourage. Let's for instance, if it coming to your city near you, be excited. For me, I'm excited, and I want people today. Let's support and let's Let the Lord do the work. Hey, it's all the time I got. My name is Calvin, the Logan Power Show, nationwide, worldwide, with nationwide, worldwide herself, Mrs. Tamika Milburn, the founder and CEO of the WPBA. We appreciate you. We love you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Can I give a shout out real quick to Kalia Cooper, who won the MVP with Chicago Sky? I know we talked about Candace Parker, but
Sure.
she is the MVP of the WNBA. So I did want, and she's from Philly, so I do want to shout that out.
Yes. Shout out to Khalifa Cooper again, the Chicago Sky again, whole team. Look, I can't tell you enough. Ladies, stand up. The revolution has started. Hey, we'll see you. We love you. See you soon.
Great, thank you.
Alrighty.
It's the Logan Power Show. Inspirational and motivational. It's the Logan Power Show. Informational to help you grow. Logan Power Show.